Hi, I'm Susan Rutledge, and in this video, I'll show you how I created the design in the top left corner of my artboard, which I used when I made the half-drop seamless pattern swatch video. I'll move to a document I've already set up with my color swatches and with a sample to follow as I make the design. I'll go up to Windows, down to Brushes, and dock the Brushes panel on the right side of my workspace, and then get the Ellipse tool, keyboard shortcut L, and click on the artboard to open the dialog box. This is going to be 0.5 inches by 0.15 inches. I'll say OK, and then get the eyedropper tool and apply the raspberry swatch. Then get the anchor point tool and click on the left anchor, and then go to the new brushes icon and choose art brush and say OK. Then I'll type in raspberry regular, say OK, and get the eyedropper tool and apply the green swatch to this same design. Go back and create another new art brush. I'll call this one green regular and say OK. I'll delete that ellipse and then get the ellipse tool again, keyboard shortcut L. I'll change the height to 1.0 and say OK. Then I'll get the anchor point tool, keyboard shortcut Shift C, and I'll click on both the left and the right anchors, and then create another art brush, say OK, and this one I'm going to call green skinny and say OK. Now I'll get the eyedropper tool and I'm going to apply the raspberry swatch and create my fourth art brush, saying OK here, and we'll call this raspberry skinny. And then say OK. And then I'll delete that ellipse and get the blob tool, keyboard shortcut Shift B, and press the return key to open up the dialog box. I'm going to change the points to 12 fixed and say OK. Then I'll click down on the artboard once, and then I'm going to make a total of 8 dots. Each one is going to be 1 point smaller than the other, and I change that by clicking the left bracket key. When I have them all done, I'll select them, come to the Properties panel and click on Vertical, Align Center, then go to the Brushes panel and click on the new brush icon, and we'll make our last art brush. I'm going to call this one Dotted and say OK. And then I can delete those dots. Next, I'll go back to the blob tool, keyboard shortcut Shift B, and press the return key. I do want 7 point fixed, so I'll leave that and say OK. And then I'll make 3 little dots together. Get the selection tool and group these, keyboard shortcut Command G, and then move them up and out of the way. Now I'm going to click on the green swatch to make it the active color on the artboard, and then get the ellipse tool, keyboard shortcut L, and I'll type in 0.6 for the width and 0.25 for the height and say OK. I'm going to get the anchor point tool and I'll click on both the left and the right anchors. Then I'll move my leaf up out of the way. Then I'll move over to the Layers panel, and I'm going to turn viewing on for the layer that has the center guide. Then I'm ready to create my heart template. I'll get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, and type in 6.5 inches for the width and 3 inches for the height. And then I'll move over to the Properties panel and remove the fill color. Then I'll give this a 1 point stroke and change the color to black. Now I'll get the direct selection tool, keyboard shortcut A, and pull on the corner widget all the way to the center. I'll get the rotate tool and rotate this object 45 degrees, and then I'll copy it and rotate the copy 90 degrees. Then I'll select both of these objects and use the Shape Builder tool to finish out my heart. I'll hold the Option key down and click on the parts I don't want, and then drag over the parts I want to keep. Next, I'll come over to the Properties panel, and I'm going to click on Horizontal Align Center to move my heart to the center of the artboard. Since this is a template, I'm going to change the opacity to 20%, and then I'm going to make a change to the shape of my heart. I'll get the Direct Selection tool, keyboard shortcut A, and click on the bottom anchor. And then I'm going to move over to the Properties panel and place my cursor at the end of the Y value, being careful not to delete what's already there, and type in -0.5 and then press the return key. And this causes that bottom anchor to move up 1/2 of an inch. For the rose template, I'll get the rectangle tool and type in 2 by 1 inches for the size. I'll lower the opacity to 20%. Move the rectangle down here a little bit, click on this pink color to make it the active color, and get the pencil tool, keyboard shortcut in. I'll start drawing in the center and draw around and around. I want to make sure I don't overlap any of the lines that I'm creating, and try to stay as close to the template as I can. When I'm finished, I'll select the template and delete it. Then I'll select my rose. I'm going to apply the light pink swatch with the eyedropper tool. Then I can drag on the anchor to resize my rose, but I want to make sure that I have at least a 0.75 stroke, and I'll move the rose up out of the way, and I'm ready to begin drawing. I'll go around the right side of the heart with the raspberry regular art brush, and once I have the shape exactly the way I want it, I'll select it and get the reflect tool, keyboard shortcut O, place my cursor on the center guideline and hold down the option key when I click on the artboard to open the reflect dialog box. And I'll leave the vertical setting and press copy. Now I'll select both sides of my heart and group them together, keyboard shortcut Command G. I'll continue working on the right side of the heart. I'll start out with the green skinny art brush and add the little swirls along the top. And this one at the bottom and then the one in the middle. And sometimes it takes 2 or 3 times to get it like you want, but practice does make perfect. I'll switch to the regular green art brush for these thicker leaves. The art brushes certainly make this easy and fun to do. I'll come around here on this corner. I'll come down to this bottom center area and make sure I leave room for that center raspberry swirl. And I'll get the skinny raspberry brush and add the 2 remaining strokes that go on the right side. And then I'll add a couple of center swirls as well. Then I'll select one of the leaves made with the regular green brush and come up to select and choose same appearance. I'll hold down the shift key and select all the rest of the swirls that are on the right side of my heart. And I'm going to reflect these. So I'll get the reflect tool, keyboard shortcut O, and once I have that, I'll place my cursor on that center guide, hold down the option key and click to open the reflect dialog box. Vertical's already checked. I'm going to leave that there and press copy. And now I have all of these swirls on both sides of the artboard. I'll select one of the regular green leaves again, choose same appearance, and I want to reduce the stroke on those to 0.75. And I'm going to make a little adjustment here on the center stroke. And I think we'll leave that right there. And then I'm going to get the dotted art brush and create the little line that comes out the center of the design. Next, I'll add the roses. So I'll hold the option key down and drag out a copy and rotate it and kind of move it around until I get the size I want and get it in place. And then I'll hold the option key down, make more copies, get those placed, and once I have them the way I want, I'm going to select all 3 of these. And when I scaled the roses, it also scaled the stroke. I want to move that back to a 1-point stroke. And then I'm going to hold down the option key and drag all 3 of these down to the bottom. I want these a little smaller, so I'll scale them. It looks pretty good right there. Move them in the center, and I'm going to change that stroke as well to 1 point. I'll go through the same process to create the leaves for the roses. I'll hold down the Option key to make copies, rotate these around, and get them placed. And the nice thing about having created the leaf pattern before I made the rose is it's lower on the layers list so that when I place these leaves in here, they're behind the roses. If you'd like to know more about how the layers work in Illustrator, I have a whole tutorial that explains everything, and I'll leave a link to that at the end of this video. We'll get this last couple of leaves placed, and then take a look. Some of my raspberry swirls are in front of the leaves and I want to move them to the back, so I'll hold down the Shift key, select all of them, and use the keyboard shortcut Shift Command left bracket to move them back. I've still got the raspberry clusters to create, but they look too big, so I'll come up to Object Transform Scale. I'm going to scale them down to 80%, and then I'll hold down the Option key and make a copy, and then hold down the Option key again, and each time I place one I can then hold the Option key down and make another copy. I think these are kind of adding the final touch to the design, a little bit more of the raspberry color, and one last one here. Then I'll move over to the Layers panel, and I'm going to close layer 5 and turn off the guide so we can see how we're doing so far. This is when I take a final look and move any pieces that need to have their spacing adjusted. I think I'm going to move the green stroke here at the bottom. I'll grab the right one and move it to the left, and then I'm going to grab the left one and move it to the right, and I think everything else looks good. Now that the design is complete, it's a good idea to select all of the pieces and group them together. I'll use the keyboard shortcut Command G. And then if I want to scale it either larger or smaller, I can do that because this is vector art and we don't lose any quality. One thing I want to caution you about is an important setting that will affect how you scale your design. Go up to Illustrator, choose Preferences and General, and make sure that Scale Strokes and Effects is checked. Now when you scale your design, all of the different pieces and strokes are going to scale at the same rate, and I think you'll be pleased with the result no matter what size it is. Well, I do hope that you've enjoyed this video and that you've learned something about creating designs in Adobe Illustrator. And if you haven't watched the tutorial on creating the half-drop seamless pattern swatch, which I used this design for, then I encourage you to check that out next. I also want to invite you to subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell so that you don't miss any of my future tutorials. Thank you so much for watching. I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye now.